I'm live. Hello, welcome to my table at SparkCon. I'm currently at my Comic-Con table, which happens to be my desk in my office in my house. I'm going to be here for a couple of hours, I think. At some point during this feed, I am going to change from the webcam, which is currently on, and it'll probably be a different stream and I'll do some sort of drawing demonstration. And how soon I get to that will be how bored I get of talking to the camera. I need to spend some time just sending links out and sharing the stream. I'm sure there's a way to do that before I start streaming, but I don't know how to do that. So you're going to watch me tweet. Get ready. Yep, so there goes one tweet. We should not have made that noise. And Facebook. Let's wait for Facebook to load up. Live stream for SparkCon. Please ask me questions and find the big old post to Facebook button. And yeah, as you can see, I've got one watcher. I think that might be my son watching next door. Maybe. Is there a card? Oh, here we go. I can copy that. I'm just going to send that to Little Heroes Comic Charity so they can share it to the rest of the con. Current live stream. Right, so I think that's admin done. Hello, welcome. If anybody's got any questions or comments, please do ask them, because otherwise I'll be forced to come up with my own questions, and I'll ask myself really easy questions or really hard ones. We'll see. So yeah, let's talk about who I am and why I'm here. My name's Gareth Hopkins. I'm a comic creator and artist. I work in abstract comics. So I make comics which generally don't have figurative drawings in them. They tend to be more abstract. I've got a few examples of those here. And let's go chronologically. So the first one I printed was called The Intercoursal 683. That came out in 2016. It was the product of a few years of exploration in drawing, where I had went through a bit of a period of just like working stuff out, and then I started redrawing comics which I liked, which led me to redrawing a whole comic I liked. I won't tell you which one it was, which meant that I made the Intercoursal 683. So you can see from the pages that the images are very abstract. There's no text in the comic, and the reader is left up to them to decide how to interpret it. If you know what the original comic is, then you can do a side-by-side, and you discover that they're actually really similar in many ways. But yeah, so that's the 683. Chronologically following on from that was Tropical Party Mode. So Tropical Party. So when I printed the Intercoursal 683, I did it through Kickstarter, and one of the Kickstarter rewards I offered was that people could give me comic pages that they particularly liked, and I would redraw them. And enough people did that I could eventually offer a what they call them, stretch goal of a free comic if you bought 683 as part of the Kickstarter. what that meant was, and that looked like this. So this is one of my favorite comic pages, which was from a comic by Ibrahim Inek, or Inik, who's a Belgian comic artist. And some of these are harder to work. I can't remember. That was from I Kill Giants. Is that what it's called? It's famous. There was a film about it. So that's Tropical Party Mode. Chronologically, where are we going next? I guess it's Extension. No, it's not. It's Found Forest Floor. So Found Forest Floor was a book that I was approached to do, and I was paired up with a poet called Eric Blagsved, who's in Pennsylvania. I think he's in Pennsylvania. And I was tasked with drawing 250 pages worth of art, and he was then tasked with writing some poetry, and I went back and lettered all the poetry into the pages. This is my personal copy. It's available on Amazon if you search for it in CreateSpace, but I can't get creative copies of it because there's some change in templates and stuff. So yeah, this is the only physical copy I'll likely ever see. I did have some and sold them, but this is the last one. The insides of it are very abstract again, but they've got this text, which is Eric writes abstract concrete poetry. And then I turned that into sort of more poety. I gave it more rhythm by cutting it up. The way I drew the comic was I started off by doing very traditional. I did 50 or so pages, which were quite traditional abstract comics, and they were very dense. And some of the original pages made it into the comic. If I can find them, almost definitely won't. Oh, there we go. So they look like that. But the editor said that's too dense. It's too comic-y for what we want. Can you? And it's taking you too long. So can you come up with the ways of making more white space? So what I did was I took the original pages, scanned them all in, and then cut them up into chunks in Photoshop, and then printed them out and drew over the top of them in ink and white pen. And then once I'd done one page, I'd scan it, print it, and then draw over the top of it again. And that meant that I could get 10 pages done a day. And I mean, fair enough, not a lot of work went into each page. Sometimes I just blanked out a great big chunk, or I layered pages on top of each other. So that's 2 pages layered on top of each other. But unless you know which pages they are, I don't think you'd feel cheated if you read it. And yeah, I was able to do massive amount of work in a short time. And I've sort of taken on that way of working since, and that's how I create pages for my current project. Next comic is the Intercostal Extension. The Intercostal Extension was created. It was created out of an accident, and then took me longer to do than any other comic I've done. So when I went through the period of redrawing comic pages that I liked, I came up with a comic called Intercostal 2, and I think I actually called it Intercostal Etc. When I made little zines of it. And I tried to print one of the zines off, and it went wrong. And instead of printing page, it just printed the page down the middle. So I had a stack of 25 A4 pages, which were worthless. But I've got a policy of never throwing any paper away, because you can always use it for something else. And so I decided to, because for Found Forest Floor, I'd sort of got out of the habit of spending time on a drawing. I was working really quickly. So I decided to relearn how to draw by filling out the edges. And that took me a year and a half on and off. It took a really, really long time. Some of them didn't. I just drew some boxes on that one. Hi, Bill. But some of them took a bit long because I had to relearn how to draw here, and they recontextualized. So this original page was a redrawing of a page of talking heads from League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, but by extending that out, it's entirely different. And what I did then was I realized after making Found Forest Floor that comics take longer to read if they've got words in them. I'm not saying they're worth more or less if they've got words in, but people spend longer with them if they've got some text in. So I decided to layer in some text. just by sort of taking snatches of phrases as I thought them, and also snatches of other people's conversation. And I also had done a short course on poltergeists. Kieran Keefe, the psychologist who also does criminal psychology and parapsychology, he did. You can do a short course with him about poltergeists and other stuff as well. So I did the one about poltergeists. Really good. I really genuinely recommend it. And sort of had a couple of months where I was obsessed with the Enfield poltergeist. And so some of my thoughts around that went into the start and end of the comic, and sort of, but not clearly. I'm not straightforward with how I talk about anything. I'm just laughing. I'm getting comments from my my son. Hi, Bill. You're right. If anybody else would like to make a comment, feel free. Don't be intimidated by the live streaming event. I know that whenever I go into anybody's live stream, I duck straight out again in case I get noticed, but I can't see who you are if you are here. So that's good. Yeah, so that's the extension. Next on the list is Petrichor, which came out last year. Yeah, last year through Good Comics. Hi, Rob. So Bill is my son. He said he doesn't get noticed, but I can see him because he's commenting. Rob, you said, what kind of poltergeist? Is the Enfield poltergeist? It's probably like the most famous British poltergeist case. A house in Enfield, and it was turned into The Conjuring 2, as well as it was the inspiration for... okay. Rob knows what I'm talking about, but it was the inspiration for a bunch of films, and Ghostwatch, most importantly. So if you ever get a chance to read the book that was written by one of the investigators called This House is Haunted, it's a brilliant book. Yeah. Anyway, Petrichor. Oh, you don't? Okay. So yeah, just Google Enfield poltergeist. You will be familiar with some of the images. So there's the center of the story, although not necessarily the center of all the activities, a girl called Janet. And you will have seen pictures. The photos were taken of her being levitated by the poltergeist, but they could also be just a picture of a girl jumping off a bed. So, yeah. So, yeah, go and read about the Enfield poltergeist. And then if you've read Extension, might make a bit more sense. I was also really obsessed with Most Haunted when I did this. So some of the text is stolen wholesale from episodes of Most Haunted, which I don't think I've told anybody, but it's actually my favorite page in here. Is a line of dialogue from Most Haunted, which I'm not going to be able to find now. There you go. So this one here, where it just says, I'm in a different room, I'm in a different room. It's because one of the crew got panicked and ran into a different room, shouting, I'm in a different room. And that struck me as interesting enough to create a whole double-page spread about. I also did another comic, which I haven't got here because it never got printed, but it was included as part of the Noise in Opposition noise music project called Too Dry to Haunt. And all of the text in that is probably the spookiest comic I've done, considering I sort of make spooky-ish comics. But all the text in that was dialogue stolen wholesale from Most Haunted. Yeah, it was just a little phase I went through. I'm not going to talk too much about Most Haunted. If anybody wants to know more of my opinions of Most Haunted, I'll do a separate live stream all about what I think about Most Haunted and why I think it's one of the best things on television, or has been. Petrichor came out from Good Comics in 2019, although I started making it in 2017, maybe tail end of 2016. But I started making it, I'd already drawn it all because same as with Extension, I tried to print out a zine I didn't have anything to do with it, so I just drew over the top of it. And after I'd drawn over the top of it, I scanned it, printed it out, and drew over the top of that. And so it came up with a series of 6 comics. Those 6 comics, I chopped the first one off because it was just Found Forest Floor. And then I was going to have that printed as a book called The Forest. And I had this concept of the forest being like a place for memories and family, and that was a concept. But again, it came back to that idea of not having text, people spending longer with text than they do with images. And so I decided to start writing stuff, and the writing process started off similar to how when I did Extension. I just took snatches of dialogue, and it was a bit weird and a bit spooky and blah blah blah. And then a friend of mine died, and so my thoughts around, and I wasn't expecting to feel as much as I felt about it, so that my thoughts around that went into the first chapter of Petrichor, and then the cadence and look and feel of that was strong enough that I was able to carry them through to a whole book's worth of text. It's been really well received. It's currently free in the Good Comics bundle. If you go to the Good Comics website, which I think is good-comics.co.uk, or you could Google Good Comics Publisher, you can get it for free as part of their bundle. With a bunch of other stuff. Petrichor is special to me. They're all special to me, but yeah, it's been really well received. So then we come on to the current set of comics, which are part of a bigger project called Explosive Sweet Freezer Razors. I got the title from Eric, who wrote Found Forest Floor. We did another project together, and one of the lines from that was Explosive Sweet Freezer Razors. I liked it enough that I made it my banner on Twitter, and then just left it there for years and didn't think about it. Then just noticed it one day and thought that's a really good title for a comic. So that's the title of my next comic. It's going to be made up of, I think, about 15 short stories. All, in theory, they're all about different things. It's a way for me to write about, to experiment with different styles of writing, making different types of stories. So the first 2 that I made in the run-up to Hackney Comic-Con last year were A Hill to Cry Home and Petalburn. The way that I made these was I had already started making comic pages. None of them are in here. Maybe some of them are in this folder. Yeah, so sort of like that. So I started making comic pages the same way that I'd been making Found Forest Floor. Just like racking them up, scanning them, storing them, and waiting until I had something to do with them. Taking pages of stuff that my kids were going to discard. That same policy of never throwing anything away. So I take my kids' drawings and draw over the top of them, scan it, redraw over the top, and I had 50 or so pages, probably more, stored up on my hard drive, and then decided that I needed comics, new comics for Hackney. So I wanted to write a ghost story. So I combined the spookier pages that I had combined and put them together, and then wrote a ghost story over the top of that. And I also wanted to make something different, which was, it was supposed to be that feeling you get when you've been on a night out and it's 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning and you're just coming out of the club, you're not quite ready to go home yet, and there's a sort of energy that you get. And that's what I wanted to write about. That's what Petalburn is ostensibly about, except that as I was making it, I realized that I'm too old to do that sort of thing anymore. The chances of me going out and leaving a club at 5 o'clock in the morning are so slim that Petalburn became about that. I think I came up with the title before I came up with the rest of it. And the title of The Hill to Cry Home doesn't bear any relation to what happens in it, except that there's a house on Haunted Hill and Haunting of Hill House. So it's like just stealing the cadence of that. Hill to Cry Home, I'm really happy with. It combines, there's 3 voices in it. One is the voice of someone going through a ritual to summon a ghost. One of them is the voice of someone talking about ghosts and what they are, and the other one is the voice of the actual ghost. And I didn't consult Eric when I did it, but I used his writing as the voice of the ghost. All the pink text is the voice of the ghost, and it's all Eric. And what I did was, after we'd finished Found Forest Floor, I still had a big chunk of text left, and I just took out the bits that seemed and so because of the way he writes, when you just read it straight through, it's sort of a bewildering pattern of atmosphere and there's no set atmosphere in it, and because of that, you can pick out phrases and plot them in. And so what I did was went in and took the sort of more aggressive, spooky phrases out of that one for A Hill to Cry Home, and took the sort of nicer ones for Petalburn. With Petalburn, I didn't make the distinction between what I'd written and what Eric had written as distinct. So some of it is him, and some of it is me. But I didn't make any change to how the text looks. So on this one, on this side of the page, on this side of the book, it's Eric speaking, and on this side it's me, but you couldn't tell that. So yeah, I really love that. So that's the first two parts I did of Explosive Sweet Freeze Erasers. The third part I released was called The Bones of the Sea. The Bones of the Sea, I actually had I'd drawn over the top of a misprint of a zine, and I did it this time February 2019, and I did it because I was bored on holiday. We were in this makes it sound more romantic, but we were staying in like a hotel thing on the shore of Loch Ness, and I got bored and redrew over an entire zine and made. And so got the artwork for that, scanned it all in, then left it. And then what was it coming up to? It's coming up to Thought Bubble. In time for Thought Bubble, I decided I needed a new comic. And so one night while I was waiting for my son to come out of his drama club, I just started writing. Part of it was about me sitting in a car park. And I think that's what most people think the book is about me sitting in a car park. I guess in some ways that's part of it. But the drawings I'd done sort of reminded me of that. I thought they looked like the bones of dead sea animals. There's something quite fishy about it. So that's what the idea of Bones of the Sea came first, and then I imagined that as being a realm under the sea of total death. And so Bones of the Sea became little vignettes about my life, so sitting in a car park or reminiscing about weird kid at school doing a talk about apples, interspersed with the fact that we're all going to die, we're all going to be totally dead one day. And that's the Bones of the Sea. It's cheery stuff. There's two other bits of Explosive Sweet Freeze Erasers which haven't come out yet. I know they have. One is digital only though, and it's called Nothing. You can read it on the Comic House app, or you can buy it from Comixology. Nothing is it's tiny fragments of 65 different people's lives, just like laid out in a numbered order, and at the end there's a little switch, some more opened out passages. I haven't got any of the artwork here, so I can't show it. Great. And yes, that's been out for a while. So Nothing is Nothing is bleak. Sorry, I'm getting messages on the side that are making me laugh. What was I talking about? I was talking about Nothing. Oh yeah, so I made it digital only because for one thing, I haven't got, other than virtual cons like this one, I haven't got any cons lined up, so I've got no reason to print and sell comics. So I made it digital only, also just to get my foot in the door on Comixology, so I can, when I get around to it, I can put everything else on there as well. And also because I didn't want to charge someone £4 for for something which is quite, to me, it felt lighter than a normal comic, but also really sad and really depressing. I didn't want someone to spend £4 just to be totally bummed out by a comic which is occasionally about ironically, I can't think of the phrase which means thoughts which pop into your head. Yeah, it's about that. It's bleak, and it's yeah. Anyway, that's been reviewed well. I don't know. I can't tell from Comixology how many people have bought it. I'm sure it's doing spectacularly well. So that's my work on that. That's taken me half an hour to talk about all of my comics. If you want to know what I've said about them, you can watch this stream back. So it's been pointed out in the comments that the name Nothing is really confusing because I just said that I was talking about nothing. That's true. It has made my life more difficult because I've made nothing, I drew nothing, I wrote nothing. I took the words of nothing and put them in the comic for nothing. It made more sense before I finished it and tried to sell it. So that's it. I've had one other comment which I'll answer in a private message. Thanks, James. Not right now, but maybe in the future. So we're half an hour into the live stream. I don't know how well it's doing elsewhere. Okay, so something's going on. I can talk briefly about what else I've got going on. In about an hour, but another half an hour or so, at 1 o'clock, I will switch to doing a drawing demonstration if anybody's interested in watching me make a comic page. I was going to finish off an older page, but watching me do little lines on a big piece of paper, probably quite boring. So instead, I will absolutely wreck an existing comic page, and that will be more exciting, I'm sure. I suppose the other thing I can talk about at the moment is a series of drawings I've been doing since we've been in quarantine, which I started off calling lockdown doodles. It was pointed out yesterday that it sounds like an American person, like lockdown doodles, and I'd already got off the phrase by then, but that's where we are. And it was just a project, like low risk, just draw whatever I wanted, whatever I felt like drawing on the day, choosing a random place in this notebook to draw. And yeah, it's been a fun experience. Just to, I won't bore you with the whole thing, but here's some examples. Not today's Santa. The earlier ones are less successful than the later ones because I've sort of learned what works and what doesn't work for these. There's a pair of scary eyes. There's that, which looks like the devil's intestines. Scary alien, which I didn't intend to draw. With the Grand Canyon. The Grand Canyon. Yeah, so this is what I've been doing lately. What you may notice is that there's a lot of highlighter pen in it because I found that highlighter pen is my preferred method of drawing recently. So I'll go back in and do lots of black ink work and use some white pen as well. But I really, really love using highlighter pens because they're low risk. They do unexpected things when you scan them, especially when you change the color mode, because all sorts of reasons. I won't get into the geekery of that. And yeah, so that's lockdown doodles. You can see that one took that. I decided to do one that took a few days, and that took a few days. But for the most part, I try and get at least one done a day, sometimes two. And sometimes I will go back to one which I didn't think was successful and redo it. Yeah, so that's that. What else could I talk about? let's talk about anybody geekery, please. So the geekery of working in highlighter pens. So highlighter pens obviously use a special kind of ink which makes them sort of shine to the human eye, fluorescent colors. Once you've scanned that, computers don't recognize that, so it will come out duller. And so in RGB color, it will look like one type of yellow, but then when you change it to CMYK to print, because commercial printers and most printers use CMYK, the yellow changes again. So where I've done this, so look at Cthulhu. It's got this big stripe of white yellow down there, which is bright enough that it actually looks like white on camera. And that's because computers can't process that color properly. I mean, you can print out in that ink, but computers don't recognize it. It just looks like yellow. So when I actually scan this in, it will look different to how I drew it. And that happens with everything. Any color you use will look like that when you scan it and use it for print. But this is a way of sort of playing with that idea intentionally. And I'll also do that with explosive sweet freeze erasers. So I've got some pages here that I've done and not scanned. So for instance, this one, the pinks and purples that come out there won't register properly on when they're scanned, but this green color that was printed out, so that should work a bit better. So here, with this one, so the fluorescent green won't register in the print in the computer, but the pink was what I printed out. That's the color that I printed out. What you might be able to hear, and I will have lost a viewer along the way, is that my son's just started his piano lesson. So if you hear what the haunting sounds of a piano, that's someone playing the piano. So here's some other pages from explosive sweet freeze erasers. These are ones which I did but haven't scanned. So there's that one. There's that one. One of these as well is the one that I did during KitchenCon, and it's probably the last page I've done for a while. Hello, SparkCon. It's nice to see you all. I'm currently holding up pages from the book I'm currently working on called Explosive Sweet Freeze Erasers. All these pages are actually variations on the same base page, which I've printed out and drawn over the top of. I was feeling very gothy this day. I just coloured the whole thing in black. It's terrible. I don't know what to do about that. But never know, I might go into a book if I feel like just doing a big black book. A lot of these pages, though, were done intentionally in sort of greens and lighter purples. And the reason for that is that one of the parts of Explosive Sweet Freeze Erasers that I forgot to mention is that there's a 6-page story called Bullwise, which will be coming out in an anthology sometime this year, maybe next year. But I haven't got any example pages around, of course I haven't. But I just got it into my head for some reason that I needed to draw a bull, and but I did it in abstract. So it was I did it in pink highlighter pen, red parallel pen ink, and then white ink over the top of that, which sort of bled the two together. It looked really meaty and weird and Cronenbergish. So I did a 6-page thing called Bullwise. And then I said to the editor of the anthology, do you mind if I do something which is in contrast to that? So if this is people's first exposure to my work, this is 6 pages out of the hundreds of other pages I've done. I don't want people to think that I'm just like this weird, aggressive meat drawing man. So I decided to come up with something more nature-ish and calming. But I still haven't, that looks creepy as hell. I still haven't, and look, I've overworked this one so much, I don't know if you can see, but there's a hole that I managed to cut through the page because I used the pen too much. And if I turn it around, you can see how much bleed through there was. And that's because I wonder what would happen if you unplugged the cartridge from a parallel pen and squeezed it, and it made a massive mess and ruined this page. But yeah, when that scans, that'll be brilliant white. That'll be good. Yes, and I haven't finished that yet. I haven't got to the pages that I want to finish for that one. And as I was working, I started putting in some fluorescent colours as well, which I thought, oh, this is the one I did for Kitchen Car. Started putting some fluorescent colours in because I thought they looked cool, which changed the tone of the comic. So the stage I'm in is I'm going to have to just keep on making pages until something sticks, until I've got enough to work with and make a comic out of. And the good thing about this is that I can just, once the pages are scanned, I can store them and keep them and come back to them in the future sometime. That's what happened with Bones of the Sea. It's what happened with Hill to Cry Home. It's what happened with Piffleburn. All of this stuff, I can just make pages and not worry, and then not worry about if it's for something. I don't have to sit there and make sure that the page that I'm working on is the page I want to finish on. I think working like that can be useful, but considering how little time I spend actually until the lockdown, suddenly I've got a lot more time. I was only doing half an hour a day, and I didn't want to spend that day miserable trying to get to an end point which I'd set myself, or something else that's set for me. So I work like this because it's more fun. I can go anywhere. I did some of these pages in the Barbican. Oh, that one with a hole in. That blew out of my hand while I was working it in the Barbican. Almost went in the little pond there. It's a little fact. So looking through the rest of my folder, this is what I carry around, this purple folder. We'll just have a look at what else I've got coming up and what else will be turned into a drawing. So my daughter did a painting of an ant for her schoolwork, and I liked it enough that I decided that I was going to draw over the top of it. So that's a scan and print of that. What is in here are some portraits of Cliff Cumber. I don't know if he's watching or know him, but as part of the Awesome Comics podcast group, we did like a portrait swap, and I could not settle on one which I liked. So I did absolutely loads of them. There's another one in nice blue, and here's sort of 80s jungle print one. So that's once the lockdown's finished, I'll be sending those to Cliff. And then this is my to-do pile. So what I do is, if I find a page that is going to go in the bin, I'll take it, I'll add it to the to-do folder. I'll carry it around with me until I have done something with it. So I'm just gonna. So I've got a pen test page. I've got that's I scanned and printed the back of that page with a hole in it. There's a scan of one of the pages I've done. There's a black and white scan of one of the pages I've done. Here are the notes I took when talking with Candy from the Youngblood Initiative. I'll probably do something with those. Or on the inside, I don't know how I got that, but that's quite nice. I can't remember why I made that, but I might do something with that. Another one of that. Here's a comics grid that I made. I've had a comment calling me a thief. I've never ever made any bones about the fact that I'm a thief. It's part of my artistic process. Don't challenge me on that. Here's a comics grid that I drew over the top of the bleed through from another page I did. And I've got a few of those. When I went through that phase of drawing balls all the time, there's some balls. Here's a printout of one of the Bullwise pages, which I'll go back over the top of. You can see it's sort of aggressive and a bit creepy. And if you turn it up that way, I don't know if you can make it out, but there's the bull's nostrils and one of its eyes. Another eye's up here somewhere. When I was doing that, I was thinking of I just watched Eye in the Night, which was a program about the Black Dahlia murders, and one of the characters in that. There's a whole thing about surrealist artists and Ball being part of the masculine subconscious, and that sort of just like wheedled its way into my brain. The program was all right, but we got a comic out of it. Here's some more stuff I don't know what to do with. My daughter drew a rainbow which she wasn't happy with, so I drew over the top of it. I don't know what I'm going to do with that. I don't know what I'm going to do with any of this. I won't say where I was, but I did a workshop in the school, and I explicitly told the pupils I was working with never throw anything away. And at the end of the day, they'd thrown loads of stuff away. So I stole it out of the bin. There's some other, I don't know why it looks like a Van Gogh, half of a Van Gogh, but I've got that. Here are some pages which misprinted from Petalburn when I was sort of self-printed that. This misprinted, and so I'm drawing over the top of it to make a whole new comic, because of course I am. Then there was an art challenge, and I can't remember her name, to draw the madam from a brothel. And it was a project that Cliff Cumber and Tiny Noggin, Rachel Lee Carter put together. So there's a print out of that. The original has gone into a folder. And then I've got some some random stuff. It's all random stuff. There's scans and prints of a comic I did for the Lakes last year, which they're the only evidence I've got that I did that, because I've never got the pages back. Here's a drawing of an eagle owl, or an owl eagle. Here's a picture of Mr. Blobby. As I go further through this, I'm getting more and more desperate about what I've been planning to do. Here is a bird which my daughter drew and hated, so I've stolen that. Here is a comic which I did for the original comic. It had blue on it and was part of a series of four big panels for a comic page, which was, so it's 4 pages of A4 sat next to each other to make one big comic, which I did for the Three Horse Gallery in Limehouse. And yeah, there's a lot of paper here, and I'm despairing now. This is a lot of paper, right? It's a lot of paper that I have said that I am going to draw over the top of to make new comics. Well, since lockdown and my kids have been working from home, at the start of every day, they print out their exercises, and I've got a no paper throwaway policy. Say hello to the future of explosive sweet freeze razors. I have mock-up pages I did for some illustration work, actual bits of the illustration. I've got some blank paper here. It's handy. I don't really see much of that. A workbook misprinted, so I've got that to draw over the top of. I've got some drawings I did with my nephew as part of a game. A random sheet of blank paper. I've got some acrylic paintings that my daughter hated, and so I will be using for something. I have a Shutterstock image of a cactus. I've got a piece of paper I've folded up into pieces for some reason. I've got a piece of paper that I cut holes into for some reason. This is all going to eventually become part of explosive sweet freeze razors. Maybe not all of it, because some of this is bullshit. Some of this is bull nonsense that won't be worth anything once I've worked over the top of it. But some of it will be. Here's a drawing of a bee my daughter did, she didn't like. I'll be using that for something. And here's a drawing of a ladybird that my daughter did that she didn't like, and I'll be doing something with that. Here's Jinx from Teen Titans. So yeah, this is part of how I'm working at the moment. How do I prevent in-home paper fires? So a few policies, as well as not throwing anything away. No open flames, except if they're in part of a fire. Our hob doesn't have flames in it. We keep no magnifying glasses are left next to windows. None of us smoke anymore. Bill and Martha did have a 20-a-day habit, but I had to cut that short because there's too much paper around. I've stopped smoking a pipe. Yeah, just little sacrifices which make it possible to keep stacks and stacks of paper around. I mean, to be fair, you can't see it because it would mean moving my camera, but I'm currently sat next to a stack of books. They're as much of a paper hazard as my random stacks of scrap paper, probably. So with 15 minutes left of the talking head, I'll just quickly explain what's going to happen at 1 o'clock. Bye, James. I'll talk about. So I'm going to do a drawing demonstration. I've still not thought through the details, which is just what I do. But I'll be switching I'll be switching channels so I can film on my phone. I'm going to hold up my phone as if you didn't know what phone was. And so I have rigged together a stack of books for height, and then I will be propping my phone on this rig, which I made by stuffing a stapler with some cardboard and balancing some rulers on it. So I'm going to put my phone on the rulers, and then that should open up enough area of the desk that I can draw on. So if anybody's got any requests for things they would like to see me attempt to draw, please let me know. I'm going to check Twitter to see if anybody said anything. They haven't. That's good, because I wouldn't have seen it because I'm on here. I'm new to YouTube streaming because I'm a 39-year-old man and I should be new to YouTube streaming. This is for the kids, I'm sure. So I don't know how it works really. But I'm good enough at teleconferencing now that I know how to turn a camera on. Has anybody got any more questions? As I say, I've got 13 minutes left of my face, and then I'm going to switch to my hands while I draw. Jesus Christ, that could have gone wrong. Other things happening are for KitchenCon. So this is being done in support of Little Heroes, who are a charity that send comic making kits to kids in hospitals. And so this event is to raise some goodwill for them. If I sell anything, I mean, I'm not expecting to sell anything, then some of the money will go to them. Gerthink.bigcartel. Gerthink is GRTHINK. Can I write that down anywhere? It's not as if I haven't got any bloody paper. I'm just going to write it down here. You can watch my face while I write. Gerthink.bigcartel.com. That's where you can go and buy comics from me if you need to, if you don't have them already. But I have the caveat that I can't leave the house to go to the post office. So if you do buy them, you'll have to wait a fair while before I get them posted to you. Or you can go to Comixology, where you can read Nothing. The comic called Nothing, which I wrote, Nothing, by Gareth Hopkins. You can go to Comixology and buy that. You can also read it on the Comic House app. Also available on Comic House is Sliced Quarterly, which is edited by Ken Reynolds a couple of years ago, and I did some work in that. Me and Eric both had work in there. And on Comixology, you can, and also stripforme.com, you can find my work in the Jazz Creepers anthology, which Douglas Noble put together. My two stories in that are about a plague of rabbits, which is actually scarier than it sounds, and also one about eating butter. Yeah, that's them, and that's where you can find my work online. Okay, are there any more questions? I can't see any. So what I might do then is, it's tough, right? Because what I want to do is set up my drawing area. But if I do that, then I'll need to stand up. And if I stand up now, it'll just be a view of my crotch for the next 5 minutes or so. And nobody wants that. So tempted to try and just stare at the camera for the next 10 minutes, but I don't think that's a good idea. Let's go and look at the Little Heroes website and see what else is happening today and what else you could do other than watch me talk. So somehow here there is a schedule. So from 2 to 1 p.m. is a welcome to SparkCon, which is us. From 1 to 2 p.m. there's drawing with Captain Fishbeard. So Tom Spark will be doing a drawing demonstration. At 3 p.m. there's the Awesome Comics podcast live, which I'll be going to, so I won't be streaming them. And at 5 p.m. there's the top 3 comic creators of all time, which will be from the guys that do that Comic Smell, which you can go to as well. I think I might come back on the live stream after I've been to the Awesome Comics thing, but I don't know if there's enough audience for that or enough desire for it. So I might not. But yeah. So who have we got in the artist alley? Let's see who I know. Nobody. Browse the store of our favorite creators. Who have we got? Oh, Nick Prolix. Everyone likes Nick Prolix. Andy Hanks, Zoot. Comic House have a store. I don't know what they're up to today. Sam Webster. Who else do I know here? Nick. L. Walker, Ken Reynolds. Yeah, we've all got tables. Oh, so Chloe Starling, she's got tables. So does Nick Bryan. So do Alien in the outfield. And some people that I don't know. And if they know me and are insulted by me saying I don't know them, please come on the live stream and tell me, because I need some more comments. I am having viewers. I've halved the number of viewers I had. I now have. Thank you for staying with me. I appreciate it. I am going to start setting up for the next live stream. I will be changing the URL and retweeting that, and tweeting that separately. So, right. I also don't know if this is going to work. So you're watching. No, I don't. Can you see that? Oh. That's good, isn't it? Very professional. And that should work. That should mean that people can see me drawing. I think I'm going to cut to that now. So there's no point in me drawing this out artificially. Nobody's enjoying it. I'm not. But yeah, I will be. I'll put the new link out once it's going. And hopefully you will come and join me there. What I'll do is, while that's going, I'll put it up on here so that if any comments do come into the chat, I should be able to see them. Yeah, I will see you in a few moments' time. Thank you for coming on this long, and for if you do decide for whatever reason to rewatch, thank you for doing that too. I'll speak to you in a bit. Bye.